Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take a whole stack of information, sift through it, and pull out the key insights just for you. Today, we're diving into the world of food safety management systems. Specifically, we're really focusing on the crucial roles within ISO 22000, our mission. To unpack the distinct differences between internal auditors and lead auditors, we've got some great sources to guide us. And, by the end of this, you should have a really clear, concise picture.
Absolutely. And honestly, getting these two roles straight is just fundamental for anyone involved in food safety, or even if you're just curious about the standards. These roles, they're basically the foundation for ensuring compliance, keeping everything above board, and building that essential trust in the food supply chain. Without them working properly, the system, well, it just wouldn't hold up.
Okay, right. So let's unpack this. Maybe start with the internal auditor. Let's put the spotlight there first. Their main job is doing these first-party audits, right? Which means inside their own company. And the goal is pretty clear. Make sure the food safety management system, the FSMS, follows ISO 22000, sure.
Yeah.
But also that it's actually working effectively day in, day out.
Exactly. And to make that a bit more concrete, their responsibilities are very hands-on. Think about them planning and carrying out these internal checks. Usually they're following ISO 19011 guidelines for this. They're looking at compliance with specifics like the FSMS policies, the HACCP plans, hazard analysis and critical control points by the PRPs, prerequisite programs, all those procedures that are set up. And a big part is finding any nonconformities, spotting potential risks, like before they become big problems, and highlighting areas for improvement. Then, crucially, they report this stuff to management, and importantly, follow up. Make sure corrective actions actually happen and work.
Okay, that makes sense. So given that role, who usually is an internal auditor, is it always an employee?
Generally, yeah. It's usually an employee who's gotten the right training on ISO 22000 and internal auditing methods. It often helps if they have a technical background or maybe QA experience because, they already understand the systems. The training itself is typically a focused course, maybe 2 or 3 days. An internal auditor training course. It covers the ISO 22000 clauses, the planning, how to actually do the audit, reporting, often includes workshops, case studies. So it's actually quite accessible for someone inside the company to step up into that role.
Right, accessible. Okay. Now, here's where it gets interesting maybe. Let's pivot to the lead auditor. This role sounds immediately different, doesn't it? They're doing second and third party audits. So that means they're often working for, say, a certification body or another outside party. And the big thing, they lead the audit teams. They're not just a member. And these audits, they follow ISO 19011 too, but also IOC 17021-, which adds another layer for conformity assessment bodies.
You nailed the key difference leading the team externally. That instantly ramps up the responsibility. A lead auditor, they're guiding whole teams through planning and doing these often much bigger audits, assessing supplier systems maybe, or doing the big audits for certification itself. That's a huge deal. And ensuring impartiality, audit integrity. That's massive. It's not just ticking a box. It's like the basis of trust. They're the ones writing the formal reports, presenting findings, often to external people. And yes, they also verify corrective actions and follow up like internal auditors, but the scale and impact, much broader.
So with that bigger responsibility, that external view, who generally becomes a lead auditor, what's the typical profile?
Well, it tends to be people with more experience. Auditors who've been doing it a while, maybe consultants, senior QA professionals, people really aiming to do those external digs or work for the certification bodies. And the training definitely reflects that higher bar. It's more intense, usually a 5-day course, a certified ISO 22000 lead auditor course. And here's the kicker. It must include an exam. A mandatory one. Plus, the certificate needs to come from an approved body, like IRCA or Exemplar Global, and you need prior knowledge too. FSMS, Auditing Basics, HACCP. You can't just walk in cold. It really is a step up. Like you said, the scope demands a more certified, comprehensive skill set because their judgments carry more weight externally.
Okay, so let's boil this down. What does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's put these differences side by side, make it super clear. First, audit type, internal auditor. They do internal first-party audits. Lead auditor, they do external second- or third-party audits. Simple enough. Then scope. Internal auditor works inside their own company. Lead auditor works with other companies or for certification body. Different playground. Training, we heard it. Internal needs that 2-3 day course. Lead auditor needs the intensive 5-day accredited course.
Right, a significant difference in time and rigor.
Which leads to certification. Internal gets a participation certificate. Lead auditor earns that formal certified lead auditor credential. It's a different level of qualification
A credential versus participation, yeah.
than the exam. Optional for internal auditors, but absolutely required, mandatory for lead auditors.
No way around it for the lead auditor role.
Thinking about career path. Internal auditor roles often lead into QA, QC, maybe managing the FSMS internally, lead auditor. That opens doors to being a consultant, an external auditor, working for a certifier. Broader industry roles, perhaps?
Definitely different pathways, different opportunities.
And finally, the audit team role. Internal auditor is usually a team member, lead auditor, well, the name says it all, audit team leader.
Yeah, leader versus member. That sums up a lot of the responsibility difference right there. What's really fascinating here is just how clear that progression is and the different spheres of influence, right? Understanding these differences is so important, whether you're thinking about your own career in food safety or just trying to figure out who does what in your own organization. It's not just job titles. It's about specific skills, accountability, and the impact they have.
And just to make it even more real, our sources mention some specific documents these auditors use, like their tools of the trade. Things like an internal audit procedure document, an audit plan template, a schedule template, a form for nonconformities and corrective actions, really important, that one. And even something like a lead auditor interview checklist or when they're doing assessments. These are the practical things they work with.
Exactly, the paperwork that makes the process tangible and auditable itself.
So there we have it. Hopefully this deep dive has cleared up the picture on these two key roles, the ISO 22000 internal and lead auditors. You should now have a much better handle on what they do, the training involved, and why they matter so much for food safety.
Yeah, and stepping back to that bigger picture, these roles, they might seem a bit, detailed, maybe bureaucratic to some, but they are absolutely fundamental. Ensuring food safety globally, building consumer trust, it relies on this. And it's all about continuous improvement, too, making food production systems better and safer worldwide. It's not just about compliance, it's about public health, really.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider how these specific auditing jobs, often working away behind the scenes, how they're directly impacting the safety, the quality of the food you eat every single day. And what does that tell us about the kind of unseen infrastructure that supports critical industries, not just food, but so many areas of our lives? Something to think about.